think the problem right now is the fact that do we have any confidence in the Secret Service? And so I think that's my question. But I
The
would
fact
think
that you have to ask that openly is terrifying.
absolutely. I mean, what happened Saturday, first of all, it's where I grew up. I know the area very, very well. The fact that there's very limited, and I'm sure you've heard this many times, and so as your viewers, there's very limited buildings there. So the fact that there was, a football field and a half that this person is really what it is, away from the president. And this morning I saw that the Secret Service is still blaming local law enforcement, which to me, one, we have to remember the Secret Service are the people that actually put the perimeter in place. And two, they cannot say that this is the local law enforcement's fault. It is a major security breach that stops at the top of the Secret Service.
Well, it also raises the question as to when that breach should have potentially been intercepted. If it really was physically at the location, that individual shouldn't have been able to access the roof with a semi-automatic rifle, or is it a failure in intelligence gathering before that? The idea that there could have been this threat out there against Donald Trump that wasn't accurately assessed. I guess just where in the process is the flaw?
I think I think that planning, number one, that there wasn't someone on that building when it was that close. There should be, and usually just in my former life doing so many events with presidential events, you have people on all those buildings. So the fact that someone was not on that building and then took time to climb up the building, I think that it started beforehand in planning of not having someone there, to answer your question. But I also think the fact that they left that amount of time to have during the actual event is where it really broke down. But I think it's a long process. And going back to your other question about the intelligence before the event, there is so much intelligence happening always, but especially now in this divisive world that we live in, that there are so many threats against both of these candidates that
Hard to sort through the noise.
Exactly, but still, that's why you put these people on top of these buildings so it wouldn't happen. And the other thing that was just crazy to me, and a bunch of former Secret Service people were saying it today as well, is the fact that they let him. It's an iconic photo, what happened of him standing up, and that's amazing. But there could have been 3 shooters, even though the one was dead at that point.
So that in itself was a failure.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is going to be I can't imagine what's going to happen with the investigative people at the Department of Homeland Security, Inspector General, that will do a report on this and see what happened. I mean, it's a major failure.
Is it time to rethink this entire apparatus? Kayleigh mentions we spent time with Congresswoman Spartz earlier, and I asked her if it's time to renew this debate over whether members of Congress should have security details. I don't know if that would be part of the Secret Service or part of the Capitol Police. I know it would come at extreme cost, but to your point, the threats continue to increase.
Absolutely, and if you talk to any members of Congress, they're really nervous right now.
Can we afford to do that, or can we afford not to do that?
Look what we spend money on, so I would think that we definitely can afford if it's a priority. I don't think that you would probably do Secret Service. I mean, obviously, there's Capitol Police that do the Speaker of the House and the Majority Minority Leader in the Senate. So I think there's still different levels of security with the Secretary of State is actually security through the Secretary of State. The Treasury Secretary is through that. It's not all Secret Service. So you may be able to do different. Private security, I mean, if I was a member of Congress right now with a high enough profile, I would be outsourcing my own security through my campaign money.
Well, think of Senator Mitt Romney, who has had to fund his own security for him and his family. This is a very real thing. So as we consider the security of ourselves right now, as we are in Milwaukee for the Republican convention, we all have had to contend with, I'm sure at this point, the perimeter and maybe have had some items confiscated in the case of my aluminum water bottle, even though it was empty.
Oh, I didn't know about
So for anyone who's entering the perimeter here in Milwaukee, don't bring your water bottles. But the point is, we're here for the Republican convention, which in many ways is likely to change in tone this week as a result of what happened. But there are some things that still need to happen, including the selection of the vice president. We're expecting it's going to come at some point today. Donald Trump has said as much. How did the events of the last 48 hours change your thinking about who it's likely to be?
With his tone of unity, and obviously President Biden's as well, but former President Trump's unity message, I would think that if Senator Vance was going to be the nominee, that you may rethink that because of he's kind of a flamethrower in regards to some of the things he said, especially after what he said on Saturday. From what we all understand, we're going to hear this afternoon, late afternoon, about the vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I personally think if you have someone like Governor Burgum or Governor Youngkin from Virginia,
Yeah, sure.
that they are probably someone that are more middle of the road in regards to how they talk about different things and would be a safer bet, in my opinion. And I really don't think that he did know who it was going to be until recently, and I definitely think that this would change his perception.
Reuters is now reporting that Marco Rubio has been informed that he is not going to be Donald Trump's vice president. So now we're going to go through this process of elimination all day. It would be classic Trump for this to be no one from the short list.
Totally.
Right? That he had us off the scent the whole time.
Which is why there is a kind of a swelling of information about Governor Youngkin. And then you still have people that are thinking, well, was it going to be Nikki? And I do think that there is a possibility that it's somebody.
Nikki Haley?
Would you say?
Are you allowing for that?
I would love it to be Nikki, as you know.
Yeah.
But I'm also a huge Doug Burgum fan, so, but I do agree with you. I mean, this is kind of his thing, to make it nobody that he's talking about. But that's interesting about Rubio. A lot of people were hoping that as well.
But he doesn't have to move now.
Well, that was the question. They're both Florida men. So how do you get around that? Marco Rubio may have had to change his residency to another state. Again, this is just Reuters reporting it. Bloomberg has not independently confirmed it, but it does feel kind of, if not The Apprentice, like the weakest link, like just a one-by-one elimination.
Exactly.
Right?
The other thing that's interesting is there was a huge Twitter blow up today that J.D. Vance left his house in a motorcade, but it's been confirmed that that was secret. That was not Secret Service, but VP motorcade. That was from the governor of Ohio. Gave J.D. Vance some protection, which he probably needs.